Hey everybody, welcome to another video on modular reactors. I thought my last video was going to be the last video on modular reactors, but that's just not the case. I learned so much more, and this is not going to replace the other video, but this is going to enhance the other video and add on to it. So what we're doing here is we're gonna go over modular reactors again, but with completely new information and a completely different way of approaching modular reactors. Let me go and show you what we have going on here. We have one tower completely built and going. We have two modular reactors that have not been started yet. For this one tower, we have everything as close to maximum heat as we can get without it tripping the failsafe here. So I'm okay with the temperatures. Here is the water usage for all 5 reactors. Each one of these reactors is producing steam. And here is our steam output for all 5 reactors. Okay. And you'll notice that we have no coolant lines for this. We have straight up 4 water tanks supplying all 5 reactors. And it's the same thing on this side over here. This side, we're waiting to build it. We're waiting to build this one. Now these are going to be 2 completely different reactors from each other. This one is going to be a steam reactor, just like the way this one is. And this one is going to be nuclear power. And then between, let's look at this. In the middle of each one, I have a solar panel, Mark III, which produces a total of 150 megawatts of power. So you'll see why I'm doing that here shortly. And there's no water usage on this one, nor is there anything going on these because they have not been started yet. Inside here is a secret. I'm going to tell you what the heck, why not? Inside in here are a whole bunch of containers with DT reactor cores. A whole lot of DT reactor cores. As you can see, nothing but DT reactor cores. And if we look, we can see all the paths of said DT reactor cores. That one goes into this one right here. This one splits. One goes into here. And the other one splits and goes into here. I did it this way because I didn't like the way the other one looked and it was driving me crazy. And then when they are used up, they get spit out. This one outputs into here. This one joins it. And this one, as you can see right here, they're already spitting out the reactor cores. As you can see as an example right here. When this finishes consuming, it spits it out. As you can see right here, they come together right here. And then they get stored in this container right here. You'll also see this, and what this does, it's creating more advanced reactor casings. And I just have a chest full of these little guys that's required to make them. So this is not at all overclocked or multiplied. It's just as is with creating the normal speed. And then we got plenty of storage, so I don't think we'll have any issues with that. Now you're probably wondering, what is all this? Well, I thought I would show you what a closed loop system looks like for DT reactor cores. So let's start on this side. This side is making liquid tritium, which we're completely backed up on. That is amazing. And in order to make liquid tritium, we use sulfuric acid and limestone. This sulfuric acid is used by combining water and sulfur together. This sulfuric acid gets dumped into 2 or more of these, what are these things called? My brain just shut off. Refineries, there we go. Sorry about that. And then they all combine here. And then I have a nice, lovely overstock or overflow of liquid tritium. I have a little pump here to go up and over. And it gets combined with the liquid deuterium, which is being made over here, which is simple bauxite, limestone, and water. Combine those together and you got yourself liquid deuterium. And then these mix together to create my DT blend, which I have an overstock of, which is nice. Those then come over here. And get combined with these advanced reactor casings, which we saw this thing disposing of. And then it gets made right here. Let's go and watch one being made. There you go. So we use the packager to put the DT blend inside the advanced reactor casing. And then these follow underneath and come into here, which then that goes into there. And this fills it up nicely. I don't know what I'm gonna do once these 2 chests get full, because this is just a tutorial, so at some point they're gonna back up and then stop. It's just a tutorial, so I'm not gonna worry about it right now. But at some point, like if this was a real build, I'd be concerned about what happens when these get full, but I'm not gonna worry about it. So that's what these are right here. This is just my closed loop system of creating my DT reactor cores. And it works pretty well. Some important things I want to tell you all and point out is that if you look at how hot my reactors are and you look at the water consumption versus the steam output, you'll notice that it's completely different than my previous video, where in my previous video I could produce twice as much steam as I'm doing right now. Now the reason that my numbers were completely different than a lot of other people's numbers, steam generation is completely dependent on how many frames a second you're getting right now, right this moment. So before I had 120 frames per second and higher, which means that I was getting double the steam generation compared to everybody else. But I decided to go ahead and cap my frames to 60 frames per second so that my numbers will match most of the rest of you. When you are generating steam, you do not need coolant because the reactor is cooled by the water itself. So we don't see any coolant right here. Everything is at 100%. In fact, when you're not using coolant, you will get some weird stuff happening. For example, when I was first building this and trying to get everything maxed out to the as hot as I could get, One of the issues I was having was the first reactor, this one right here, the normal 100% temperature operating temperature, I don't know if that made sense or not, was at 150. And then as I added more and more reactors, the normal operating temperature jumped from 150 down to 100% reaction rate. So 150% reaction rate was what it was when I had 2 other reactors, and then when I added 4 and 5, the normal reaction rate dipped down to 100. I don't know why. Maybe it's a bug, I have no idea. But see, these are all 100%, right? And if I look at it, the temperature, the normal temperature is 100%, whereas before it was the normal reaction temperature was 150%. So I don't know if that made any sense, but so right now everything's at 100 and we are at 100 down here. However, when you use coolant, that kind of stabilizes it. I don't have that issue. Some other things to note, which are really important, is that when you're building your modular reactors, for every coil you place, it uses 5 megawatts of power. Let me go ahead and show you what I mean. First of all, let's go ahead and grab the power thingy. Nothing is built, so we're using 0.1 megawatts of power, and our production is 150, thanks to our solar panel right here. Okay, now, if I were to go ahead and create the first reactor, which is right here, and I put in 1 reactor chamber here, I'm going to show you what this looks like. We have 1 reactor chamber placed right there. See it? There's one. Now, right now, it's not consuming any power whatsoever. However, if I were to turn this reactor on, just this guy by itself, wait for it to engage. There we go. All right, it's on. It is now using 1 megawatt of power. Now, if I place all of them and I turn them on, it will use 50 watts of power. I'm going to show you. There we go. There is just 5.1 megawatt of power being used. And let's go ahead and turn the rest of them on. We are now using 50 megawatts of power. This reactor requires 100 megawatts of power to turn on. So when you combine it with the 50 right here, you got the 100. I'm going to show you. It uses up the entire solar panel for just that brief moment right there. So each one of those uses 5 megawatts of power, and we have 10 of them. This gives us 50 megawatts of power. We charge it up, and then that uses the 150 megawatts of power. So you might ask, why is that important? Well, if I wanted to, I can build up this whole thing and then start one at a time. So we already have this built. Let's go ahead. Oh, I forgot to put cooling in there. You know what? We're not going to use cooling for this one. Nope, not at all. Not this round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start her up. Make sure I got everything in place. Yep. All right, so everything's locked. We're charged. Let's go ahead and start her up. All right, it's going to take a moment to turn on. All right, we are now generating an additional 5,000 megawatts of power in addition to our 150 megawatts of power, and we're only consuming 50 megawatts of power. And remember, that's because each one of those reactor chambers uses up 5 megawatts of power. What I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to take this. Let's look at it. And I am not going to use, where are we at, 50%? Is that what it requires to keep it cool? A little too low here. Whoop, wrong one. Well, I think this is what is required to keep it cool. We'll soon find out. That should be good enough. All right, so let's do a time lapse of me building this all the way up. We are generating right now 2,650 megawatts of power, which for right now I'm okay with because I want to build this up. Okay, so I've got this built up. Right now I'm not really caring that much about how much power generation I'm going to be making. I've got over 22,000 and 21,000 megawatts of power, which is way more than what I need. So I could probably, if I wanted to, you know what the hey, why not? Let's just go ahead and there we go. That works for me. It keeps it nice and cool. I don't need that much power generation. I'll only have this on for illustrative purposes. So without any kind of shielding or cooling, you can still produce from one tower a lot of power, over 10,000 megawatts of power. That's a lot just from this reactor. Yes, can we go higher? Absolutely. Let's see how much coolant we're using. We are using 70 cubic meters, 66 to 70 cubic meters of coolant and only 37 cubic meters of water, which isn't too terribly bad. Now, I'm going to connect this to this so that I can build up this. I'm going to go ahead and do another time lapse of building up the second tower for steam production. Okay, all our reactors are online. We're not generating steam because all of our reactors are cold. What I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go ahead and crank them all the way up to the max. I want to be as close to the top as possible without going over. And as I look at this one, if you look at this one, they're all 100%. I've got adequate water flow. I have MK3 shielding on all of these, as you can see. And then I also got the reactor cooling on all of these. So these are exactly the same. Should be all exactly the same. Yep, they're all exactly the same. They're all doing the same exact thing. These are at 100%. This shows 100%. We'll grab two random ones. 100%. This one shows 150% reaction rate across the board. And this one is at 100%. 100%. And 100%. That makes no sense. They're both producing steam. There's no reason why these reaction rates should be different. and producing the same. I don't know, it's like this game's got a bug, and I can't explain why they're different. They just are. So if you encounter this, I would recommend going to the Discord and telling your dev about it. All right, I am gonna go ahead and try to get us as close to the maximum as we can, like you've seen with these. Let's go ahead and give that a try here. We're gonna increase it slowly. Since we're so close, I don't want to go over and, you know, shut down my reactor. So I'm gonna very carefully monitor these guys. Okay, so those two, I'm comfortable with how high that's getting. Because I also have to, okay, so that one is stable. That one's stable. So these are the two temperatures at which those are going to be stable. I'm okay with that. Let's go ahead and stabilize that one. Stabilize that one. And then stabilize that one. All right, let's see how long that'll take. We have to wait for these. All right, that one's stable. That one's stable. That one's stable. Oh, great. What timing? That's great timing. All right. Those are all stable. How much water are we using? Let's find out. Not terribly bad. Let's see how much steam we're producing. Not bad. Really quick, I want to see how many reactor casings we're going through. And I thought I had a thingy here, but I don't. So give me a moment while I grab conveyor throughput monitor. I want to do it before this guy right here. How are we doing? Doing not too terribly bad. All right, so we'll come back to this in about a minute, because that's how long it'll take. And that'll give us an idea of how many reactor casings we're going through. So we are producing a lot of steam. Let's see what our combined steam output is. Not too bad. We're not at full maximum yet, but that's okay. This is my emergency sink valve. So if I turn, oops. So if I turn the valve's actually over there. If I turn the valve on, it'll dump all the excessive steam into a couple of sinks that we have going on. All right, I am content with the steam production being powered, or that's coming out of these two towers right here. And then we have I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and do steam production from at least one of these towers, because what I wanna do is I want to have these as close to 600 per pipe, and we're not there yet. So we need what? Give me a moment. I'm gonna do some quick math. All right, we need 760 cubic meters of steam to max out these pipes to get the full power generation that I want. Thing is, each one of these produces at 60 frames a second. Each one of these produces 214, 227, 223, 218. Okay, so 246. We need at least 3 more of these, at a high temperature to be able to at 60 frames a second to max out the throughput of all 5. We're gonna need 4. So we're gonna need to convert these top 4 into steam generation. So I won't do that right now. I might do that off camera because it's gonna take a little bit, as you've seen how long it takes just to get this guy online. But let me go ahead and show you what we're powering. So we have a completely different setup than what we had before. So let me go ahead and show you. I'm going to go ahead and break this video up into 2 parts since this video is long and the file size is very large. It's making my computer very laggy.